Okay, we're gonna do midterm 1 test 2. Now remember once again that this is version 4, and so you may get some other version. Yours might not be exactly the same as this, but this should help you prepare. So again, make sure we read the instructions because it's almost like the homework, just slightly different. So company has the offices, manager is going to visit every office and then return to LA, build a model to calculate the total distance of the manager's trip. When an ordered list of city names is provided, it must work with any 7 cities and any order of visits. Okay, so I can't remember or not if he gives you the data to fill in here. You could just make it up. It really doesn't matter. But I think he does give you the data. So I'm just going to fill in the data here from what I have. So you can see where LA to New York is the same and Chicago to LA is the same and all that. So it's all correct in here. And then, we want to have in any order, the cities here. So we can really just copy that and just stick it in. Oops, undo. Can I copy without? Yeah, just copy the values because I don't want to change the color. Okay, so we just have these cities. It doesn't matter what order they go in as long as he goes to the cities. Okay, so the first thing that you're gonna want to do is label stuff. That's gonna make everything so much easier. Okay, so for example, I want to label this whole orange block something. You can see here, it's titled airfare, okay? That is an array because you're going to use a lookup function to, we're more than likely going to use index because, again, index will look in a particular column and then it'll look at a particular row and it'll give you the intersection of that column and row, okay? So that's what we want to look for here. So we want to make sure that we have our whole array, which is just all of these. We're going to call them airfare. The next thing we're going to want to label is the names of all our cities, like right here. Okay, we want to name these something. So let's just name them city. Actually, let's just do cities. Okay, so now these are all of our cities, and that's going to help when we're doing our equation because then we can say that we want to look in this array for a row that matches a city and a column that matches a city, since these are both the same. Okay. The next thing we're going to want to label is, let me just check my, yeah, it would totally help if I was prepared. I want to look at my existing labels. Okay, I double checked and it looks like city and airfare are the only 2 that we're going to need. Wonderful. Okay, so next we want to fill in these to grab the distance that we want based on these. And then here we can do this real easy because this is just going to be a sum of those. Okay, so that'll fill in as we go. Time saving hint, formulas need to be developed only for 2 cells. We already discovered this is 1 cell. We only need to do the formula for the top one and then we just copy it down and it'll work, okay? So make sure you read these hints. They're super duper helpful. But literally we will develop the 1 formula and then just copy it down and then we take the sum and then our model is done, okay? So this is a relatively simple index equation. Remember, index looks in an array for a specified row and a specified column. So what we want it to do is look in the airfare array for and match the name of this city and the name of the next city. That's really all we need to do is we need it to look up where this city is in the row and this city is in the column. And again, it doesn't matter because they're the same. If you do LA to New York here or LA to New York here, these both have the same value. And of course they would, they're the same distance. Okay, so we're going to index. And our array is, remember, our airfare. Okay, And then we want it to first, we want it to match this number in our city section right there. And we want it to be an exact match. I want exactly that city. I don't want it to mix up Philadelphia and Phoenix, okay? I want it to be exact. So we're gonna have 0. And then for the column, we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna match this value in our cities with an exact match. And then close bracket. That's it. That is the correct thing that we wanted. LA to New York is in fact 2464. And double click. This one is not needed, as you recall. Let's undo this real quick, because see how this is blank? You don't need that one because it's all in the one before. So we just need to bring this down to here. I don't know why it decided to bring it down so far, but that's it. We only need those ones. That's our total distance, and we are done. That's it. That's all it needs to do. Okay, and then this total distance is the sum from there all the way down to there. Okay. All right, that's it. Let's go on to number 3. Okay, this is another one that's exactly like the homework we just had, but again, remember what I said about you need to read the instructions. You can see here he's put them in bold so that you can see them. If they're not in bold on your test, I would definitely take a look at it and bold them yourself so that you can make sure that you know what you're doing. So this time, instead of a 30-year loan, it's now a 40-year mortgage. So 40 years, which you can tell because as we scroll all the way down to the bottom here, it's instead of 360, it's 480. Okay. And instead of paying on the first workday of the month, we're now going to pay on the 5th workday of the month. So we need to keep that in mind when we are doing our payment dates. Okay, so these numbers don't matter. So we're just going to put, I'm going to put $650,000 that we're borrowing at 4.25%, and let's just say that we're going to borrow starting today. So today's the 8th or the 9th? Today's the 9th. We're going to borrow it starting on the 9th, 2022. Okay, and that's it. Given those 3 values, we can now set up a detailed payment schedule. Okay. Now, time-saving hint: formulas only need to be developed for 7 cells. You'll notice there's 6 columns. The 7th one is, remember from when we did this before, that the beginning balance for the first one just equals our loan amount, whereas the beginning balance for the second cell equals the ending balance for the previous month. Okay, and then this can go all the way down. So this column has 2 formulas, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so you only need to do this top row and this particular balance in the second row, and then you just copy it all the way down. Okay, so when you look at this whole giant chart, just remember you do not have to fill all of these in. You're just copying the formula that you've already created. So that'll save you like a ton of time, because you really only need to worry about this much of this whole mishigash. Okay, also you'll notice that when you did it on your homework, the payment was its own little thing over here, and this time it's not. Now you can do your payment calculation in this box and then, you know, copy it all the way down. Or you can, because you can add as many calculation cells if you want, as long as it's a calculation cell, you can add monthly payment and make it a calculation cell right here the same way that you had it on the homework, and then just have this payment equal this payment cell. Okay, and then if you're not going to name it, you obviously want an absolute reference. Okay, and then just tell it to do that all the way down. Okay, so you can do it either way. You can either have your payment be in this box, or you can make a calculation cell and you can put it up here in this box. Either way works. It does not matter. it's just 100% up to you. Okay? The other thing is please, 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 please remember that when we're doing these things, the formulas in Excel think that loan amount should be negative. So please, please, please remember when you're calculating the payment, the principal payment, the interest payments, to put a negative sign before the formula to flip the signs. Okay? If you get red, that means you forgot it. Okay? So just pay attention to that. If you see any red, it means that you forgot to put in a negative sign. Okay? So let's just go ahead and do the monthly payment here and then just copy it down. So we're going to do negative. We want to figure out our payment at this rate. And again, our number of payments is going to be this cell right here. So we can either just grab that cell, or we can do the max of that column. So funny thing, you can do max of this whole column and that'll also work. And then you can pick, we want the present value, which is our actual thing. Oh, by the way, again, notice I forgot. Divided by 12, these are monthly payments. Divide by 12 for your rate. You can't just take the APR. You have to divide by 12. Please don't forget. Okay? And so make that a little bit bigger. There's our monthly payment. Notice that I just told it to do the maximum of this whole column and it gave me the right number, because this thing here and this thing here are not numbers. Only these are numbers. So these are considered text and it doesn't consider those when doing max. Okay? I could also, if I wanted to, this is labeled payment number. So if I really wanted to, I could also change this to max payment number. Oops. Payment number, and see it highlights that whole thing. And it's the exact same number. Okay? It's exactly the same. It doesn't matter. You can do it either way you want, or you can just click on the actual cell itself. It'll still work because these are not in orange. So he's not going to change those. So you don't have to worry about them. He's only going to change these three. Okay. So now we've done that. And now we need to do the workday. And the workday formula is going to be almost exactly the same as the workday formula before, except the very, very, very last number of the formula is going to be a 5 instead of a 1, because we want the 5th workday and not the 1st workday. That is the only change that you're going to see from the formula in the homework. Okay, so, and don't mind them, it's hot and they just want cucumbers. Okay, so it's going to be, if you print out your formula from your homework, you're going to get this exact same answer. You're just going to, again, 5th workday. Now, since they're different values, I'm just going to assume that some people are going to have different mortgage years and some people are going to have different work days. So just pay attention to that. The mortgage year won't matter so much because you're going to use the same formula to figure out what the number of periods is. And it's always going to be whatever the last cell is in that column. But the work day is going to matter to your calculation. Okay, so let's just do it. We're going to do work day. We want the start date, which is this day, which you can see here, it's labeled start. You can label it whatever you want, but this is the work day. A lot of times, because he reuses these spreadsheets and stuff, you'll find that the cell that you want to use has already been labeled. And so you could just use his label. Okay, so just keep that in mind, that you might already have labels in your worksheet before you even start. Okay, now how many days? Well, I need to get a, oh, I'm sorry. I don't want the start date for this one is actually going to be the 1st day of the month after my start date. So I need a date, and I want the year of this start, and I want the month of this start plus the period, because remember from the homework, if I do, this is going to be +1, it's going to be the next month and the next month and the next month, and until we get there. And then I'm going to want day is 1. So the reason we're putting this as 1 here is because I want it to return the this whole section here is just giving me the date that the work day is going to start from. See, it has start date, and then it asks you for the day of the month that you want to start on. So if you tell it the 5th, and then you tell it you want the 5th work day, it's going to start counting from the 5th day of that month instead of from the 1st day of that month. So don't make this one 5 or whatever you need it to be. Make the one outside of this parentheses. Okay, so we're going to close that, and then we're going to want the 5th day, because that's going to, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't close enough parentheses. Purple, and then red, and then I want a black parentheses to close date. Then I want, are we in? No, I don't want that. Hold on. There we go. And then I want the 5th day. And then there's no holidays. We're disregarding. Enter. Okay, what do we got here? 7th. Okay, that seems reasonable. Let's put it all the way down. Ooh, the 8th. That's unreasonable. I shouldn't have the 8th. And I don't see the 5th anywhere on my list. So we're going to have to make an adjustment, just like we did for the homework. We're going to put it after the date before the comma. Okay, and we're just going to subtract 1. All right. We're going to go all the way down. There we go. Now we got some that start on the 5th. Because that's what we would expect to see. We would expect at least some of them to be starting on the 5th. Okay, perfect. That's what I want to see. Okay, so we've got our dates. And now we've got our date. We can actually, if we wanted to, we could put date of last payment so we know what it is. But it's going to be 9/7/2062, which makes sense because that's exactly 40 years after 2022. It's exactly what we want to see. And then we've got our payment. So we're going to do the exact same thing that we did before for principal, which is going to be equals negative principal payment at our APR divided by 12 because it's monthly in the first period. Okay. And then for however the number of periods that we have, we'll do the max payment number. Present value is going to be the loan amount. Now you can see here that it's not labeled. I want it to be I don't want it to change. I want it to be the same number. So I'm going to hit F4 to make sure that it stays the same number. Okay, because it's not labeled. If it was labeled, the label works the same as an exact reference or you know, so just keep that in mind and double check whether or not you want that reference to move. And then that's it. And we close that out. And that's our principal. We're paying $2,800, but our first payment of $2,800, only $500 of that's going to principal. Isn't that fun? Okay, and all the way down. Now what's funny is if I really wanted to, I could take this. Oops. And if I copy and paste it here and just change this to an I. Oops. It's the exact same formula. It's just a P payment or an I payment. So you just copy over the exact same thing, just put an I, and like that's it. And you'll know you did it correctly when you get down to the bottom. And the very last payment is mostly principal and almost no interest. Okay. And then the last one, check, make sure we did it correctly, is our ending balance, which is again always going to be your payment minus the amount that goes just to principal. Okay, and the reason that is because I'm sorry, it's going to be your payment. It's going to be your balance minus the amount that just goes to principal. Because remember, the interest is just free money for your bank, but because we're not adding the interest into your balance, we're only talking about this is only your principal balance, okay? So this should really say beginning principal balance, and then interest is just money that's like falling, dripping through the holes as you pay. So it's always going to be your beginning balance minus your principal, okay? And then all the way down, all right? And then we check it at the bottom. Our very last corner here is 0. We've done it correctly because we've correctly made all of our payments, and at the end of 40 years, we now owe nothing. Okay, and that's it. So just remember that you really only need to do these 6 and this one, and then just copy them all the way down. Okay, so don't worry about everything below that. And you can add as many calculation cells as you want. You put the monthly payment here. If you really wanted to, you could put pay periods, and you could have this one equal max payment number. And then you could name this something, you could name this NPR. And then every time one of these formulas asks for the NPR, instead of putting max payment number, you could just refer to this cell. Okay, so those are several different ways you could do that. Do it whichever way makes it easiest for you to conceptualize the formula that you're trying to make. And just remember, payment, principal, and interest. Is payment, principal, and interest? Yeah, because payment, negative sign. Principal, negative sign. Interest, negative sign. Do not forget your negative sign, okay? And for these ones, I didn't have to put an absolute reference here because I didn't move it. Oops. So since I'm just copying from there and it's an absolute reference all the way down, that's where the absolute reference is. On these ones, I had to make sure that I'm absolutely referring to that single cell loan amount. Okay, so either name your cells or include absolute references if you only want to refer to one square. Okay, I'm repeating myself a dozen times because I really want you to please, please, please remember that. Okay, don't get flustered. Name your cells because the names work like an absolute reference. Okay, and that's it. I hope this helps. Good luck.